Welcome to Sam Marcus Makes, a YouTube channel where we make things. Of course, in the shop, but today in the kitchen. Today I'll be making a very budget-friendly, clean out your refrigerator pot of beans, pinto beans. Using some ham hocks and some sausage, and of course whatever leftovers we can find. Let's get started. Alright, so let's go over these ingredients. First, I had 1 pound of pintos, which are right here covered up, and we'll definitely talk about that. For some meat, got some beautiful ham hocks. Also got I have 2 links of the Texas Heritage pork and venison. Normally I get beef, they just happen to be out. Talk about some of the vegetables. Of course, we're going to add some onion, add some garlic, bell pepper, celery, maybe some fresh serranos from the garden. We'll add some emu. Wait, how did this emu get in here? I guess Kenley left an emu. Maybe we should put this in the beans. We'll have to see if the emu ends up in the beans, or maybe we can get Kenley to help. We'll have to find out. Let's get started. So we're gonna soak the beans, so get them in a bowl. You can kind of sort them. I don't spend a lot of time doing this. I'm really just making sure there's no stones in it, there's no mud, dirt. So you can very quickly, I know a lot of people put a lot of time into this. I don't. I've never honestly found a stone. I hear sometimes there's stones. Important thing here, when you add your water, you don't want too much. You want 6 cups of warm water. Turn your faucet as hot as it'll go. Get it in there. You do not want to use cold water to start soaking your beans. Put a towel over it. Set it on your counter overnight. Alright, so we're done soaking the beans. But let's talk about real quickly about the soaking of the beans. Alright, so these have soaked overnight. You can see they're plumped up. They do have some splitting, but I would want to take just a couple seconds and talk about the soak versus no soak. Both are completely acceptable. I do prefer to soak my beans overnight. I think it gives to a much better bean tenderness. Plus, it's not as bad as a splitting of the bean. So if you're in a hurry though, taste wise, it's going to be in the same. Or if you do it in an instant pot, I think you're going to get very similar results. I think if you have the time to let them soak, I think it's always best. So I'm going to get rid of this water. We'll put new water, but we'll go ahead and start just right there. All right, so we're making the Trinity. Got 1 medium onion, bell pepper, and celery. I'm not going to show you the chopping, but one thing I was going to bring up, most people cut off the celery tops. Celery tops have lots of flavor. So as I'm cutting this, keep those celery tops. That is really, really good flavor. So that's going to go straight in the bowl, and we're going to saute that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and sweat down these vegetables. One thing I'll definitely point out, this is a hot pan. It's not on high or nothing, but most people start with a cold pan. You do not want to start with a cold pan. Heat it, put a little oil, just a little bit of olive oil. And when I put something in it, it should sizzle. So there's your sizzle. And we're just going to sweat this down. Of course, season your food. A little pepper, a little salt, a little more salt. You don't want to add a ton of salt because a lot of the meat we're going to be putting in is salty. Take a spatula. Of course, this is the wooden spatula I made. If you want to check that video out, I will do my best to put it about right there. We'll see if I can get that done. But anyway, just want to cook these down. Get them a little translucent, get them soft. We are not going to be cooking the beans in this, but I did want to cook this just for a little bit in a non-stick skillet. Get it nice and tender before we start putting it into the food bowl. Alright, so that's cooked for about 5 minutes. And you can see there's some nice color. on the onions, celery. Some of that is why we start with a nice hot pan. It's going to give it a good sear, let it cook. So I'm going to turn this off. We're going to start putting the things into the stock pot so we cook these beans. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get this first into the pan. And same kind of thing, we're going to start with a higher hot pan. Get that in. And then we'll get the beans. That was 1 pound of rinsed and green beans. Now we need to get some stock in there. And I'll add some more. Want to get this going. That's probably a cup there, but I'm definitely going to add some more. Alright, so we're going to add 6 cups of hot water. 6 cups of hot water. 2. That's 4, and we'll add 2 more. The reason you want to add the hot water is anytime you add cold water to a bean, you have more likelihood to split the bean. So we're trying to keep the bean whole. Always add hot water to your beans. Alright, so we're going to get the meat in, especially these ham hocks, because they need to cook. So, whenever you use ham hocks, this is lots and lots of flavor, And most people would just simply throw these in the meat, but saw this a long time ago. Actually, I think Emeril Lagasse showed it. If you score this very outer layer of skin, it's going to help break down and it's going to start adding flavor. And what I mean by score, just take a serrated knife or a very sharp kitchen knife and just kind of go along and all the way around, cut this really tough skin. Do that, and then come around and do the same thing and make cross cuts. It's going to help break down that skin. It's going to make these cook a lot more even. Even if you don't like the taste of a ham hock or don't like to eat it, lots of connective tissue. A lot of people don't want to fight with it. There's so much flavor in that. And price-wise, so 2 ham hocks during COVID time is $4.38. So that's a great deal. And really 1 is plenty. I'm gonna add 2 because I really didn't want to freeze them. Probably could have, but just gonna use both. And you can definitely eat a ham hock. I like them. Very good to eat. Kind of fatty, a lot of connective tissue, but they're yummy, yummy, yummy to eat. All right, so we're gonna put these 2 in the pot. And I'm gonna let that cook. I am gonna put sausage and maybe some ham and some bacon later on, but I'm gonna do that at the end. I'm gonna let the ham hocks do their work. I don't wanna cook the sausage forever. Still like a little bit of a bite in the sausage. So I'm gonna let this cook now for an hour and a half. One thing I forgot I have not added, so I need to get some garlic in here. Now this is gonna look like a ton of garlic, but this is store-bought, already peeled garlic. So it may not be as good tasting as fresh garlic peeled, but it is so much easier and it's close to the taste of garlic. And it is night and day different in quality than the canned stuff. The canned stuff is garbage. So I'm just gonna smash these. I'm not even gonna chop them, I'm just gonna smash them, throw them in the pot. All right, so we are gonna add the garlic. We're going to stir that up. We're going to make sure that there's enough liquid to at least cover the ham hocks, which there is. I don't want a soupy. To me, beans or pintos should not be soupy. So I'm not trying to make soup. I'm trying to make beans. So this may not seem for some to have enough liquid. We're not making charro beans here. We're just making refried. Not refried, I said that wrong. Pintos. So we're gonna let this cook for an hour. I am going to cover it, but not put it on tightly. I'm just gonna barely cover it to keep some of the heat. Once it comes up to a boil, that's when I'll put the cover. But I want to bring it back down to a simmer. I don't want to, not to a heavy boil. Heavy boil is actually going to mess your bean up. It's going to make them split. So light heat. I have to interrupt. Luckily, it's not even up to a huge rolling bowl. I totally forgot one major step. We need some seasoning. So let's add some seasoning. Yes, some salt and pepper. I normally will add some Old Bay. I do not have any Old Bay with me or at the house right now. So I'm just gonna use actually some Old Bay. So this has got a little more than just bay leaf, but so just about, I don't know, half a tablespoon. Okay, whole tablespoon. Like that stuff. We can also add some thyme. In my cooking, I don't measure too much. So whatever looks good, so I don't know, tablespoon, teaspoon, whatever works. Also got some paprika. Who knows what I'm adding. And then some cumin. Gotta add that cumin. Cumin smells so good. And that's about a tablespoon. And we will mix it up. And let that cook. And of course you could add any seasoning you want. That's just some basic seasoning to kind of get it started. Throughout this process, I would definitely taste it. See if you need salt, add maybe some garlic, powder, some more Old Bay. There's so many things you can use. If you like it a little hot, this is where you could add some ground jalapeno, any kind of peppers, tomatoes, whatever you want to add. This is the time to do it for some taste. They also make, I've never used it, but I'm sure it's perfectly fine, some pinto bean seasoning. A lot of it is going to be the same stuff that I put in. But taste as you go. You really only need to taste the broth. No point in tasting the bean. But it's starting to come up to a rolling boil. I'm going to barely cover it, just like that, so we can let some of that get out. And I'm going to drop my temperature down to a simmer. And we're just going to let it cook for an hour and a half. So now it's time for her to keep track of my time. Alexa, set me a bean timer for 1 hour and 30 minutes.
Bean timer, 1 hour and 30 minutes, starting now.
All right, so you can see it's kind of cooked down. This is where I'm going to add the extra meat, where I kind of had talked about emptying the refrigerator. So I'm going to use some leftovers. So for lunch today, we had burgers. So there's a couple patties of burgers just chopped up. I also said I was going to add some sausage, and I am adding 1 link of sausage. I said 2, but I think I'm going to have enough meat. So I think night before last we had ham steak, so I'm adding some ham steak, and there's also 4 or 5 slices of bacon. So a lot of extra meat, and then we'll stir that up. Oh, wait, I got one more thing. We also had dirty rice one day. I don't remember when. Add the dirty rice. Probably be good, right? Thing that in there. Get a spoon. Who knows? I'm probably gonna need to add a little bit more liquid in here just to get this kind of going. So let's add a little bit of stock. All right, so I'm gonna add some beef stock. So instead of adding water in your cooking, always have beef stock or chicken stock, vegetable stock. Use stock. Quit using broth. I think broth is, I mean, it just doesn't have the flavor that a stock would. And at my HEB, stock is like $1.50. And if you don't know what HEB is, it's a local grocery store in Texas. But $1.50 for stock, and this is $2.50 for $1 more. Such better flavor. Anytime you would add water, if you add stock, you're going to get much better results. All right, so let's stir this up. May have added, and I probably added another cup of liquid to it. But we're going to let this cook maybe another 20-30 minutes. Let some of this other meat get going and we'll be done. If you want it to get a little thicker, you could definitely bring up the temperature and get rid of some of the juice, but I think this is probably about right where I want it to be. So let's let it continue cooking. All right, so it's been about 2 hours. And let me show you what we came up with. It's kind of hard, but wonderful, wonderful beans. This is really good over some rice. Even better, some cornbread. Or good grief, just have it by yourself. But you can see all the meat in there, all the beans. The beans are so creamy, creamy, creamy. Good portion of vegetables. Let's see what it tastes like. So good. There's still a nice texture to that bean. It's so good. One quick variation, one thing you can do if you want it to be a little less soupy even than this, take out maybe half a cup of these beans from right here, put them in a bowl, pound them up, make like a paste, put them back in there and mix it in. That will help thicken up. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. I'm happy with this. I put a lot of meat in it, so I don't think it's needed. Plus, I definitely plan on having this over cornbread. So, really good. Really pleased with it. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, please give it a like. And if you are not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. Let's continue to build this channel. Stay tuned for more cooking as well as building channels. I try to get out a video every week. So appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.